All right, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Dr. Phibes Rises Again. How is it possible? It seems to me in this sequel that Dr. Phibes must have discovered the elixir prior to doing it all over again with his dead wife. Robert Quarry had the same problem. He got a limited supply of the elixir for 100 years, and then he was down to his last drop, and he's desperately trying to compete with Phibes to get more elixir. Flesh crawls, blood curdles, Phibes lives. Dr. Phibes rises again. Pretty cool looking movie poster. Yeah. Dr. Phibes Rises Again is a 1972 British comedy horror film. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I love this flick. Produced by Lewis M. Hayward, directed by Robert Fuest, who did the original of The Abominable Dr. Phibes, and starring Vincent Price reprising his role and Robert Quarry as his new antagonist. The film is a sequel to The Abominable Dr. Phibes from the previous year, 1971, when I was 1 year old. After seeking vengeance on the doctors whom he blamed for his wife's death in the first film, Phibes returns to seek eternal life in Egypt, where he pursues a centuries old man who holds the ancient secrets that Phibes needs. 3 years after the events of the previous film, Dr. Anton Phibes emerges from suspended animation when the moon enters into an alignment with the planets, the first such occasion after 2,000 years. Phibes prepares to take Victoria's body to the river of life in Egypt, which promises eternal life for him and Victoria. However, his ancient papyrus map to the river has been stolen by Darius Biderback, a man who has lived for centuries through the regular use of a special elixir. After translating the papyrus, Biderback seeks the river of life for himself and his lover, Diana. All right. Production company, American International Pictures, distributed by MGM EMI Distributors. Release date July 1972. Running time 88 minutes. Country UK and language English. No box office information. Phibes and his silent assistant Volnavia, played by a different actress. I thought Volnavia had her face splattered by acid in the last movie, and she's being played by a different actress. And we've got other actors who are in the original movie playing different roles. So it's like Dark Shadows television show, musical chairs going on here. They enter Biderbeck's house, they kill his manservant, and they reclaim the papyrus after noticing that Dr. Phibes' safe had been robbed by Biderbeck. I don't know how he got that assumption, but he knew it was Biderbeck somehow. Because they went through all the rubble, they opened up the safe and it was empty. And then Dr. Phibes says, Biderbeck. They leave for Southampton to take a ship to Egypt. Biderbeck travels on the same ship with Diana and his assistant, Ambrose. When Ambrose discovers Victoria's body stored in the hold, Phibes kills him. His body is stuffed in a giant bottle and thrown overboard. Inspector Trout, this is the same Inspector Trout from the first movie, but we don't see his sidekick. Inspector Trout discovers the corpse when the bottle washes ashore near Southampton. He and Superintendent Waverly, played by the same actress in the first movie, question shipping agent Lombardo upon hearing the descriptions of Volnavia. An organ and a clockwork band all being loaded aboard, they realize that Phibes is responsible. Oh, I forgot to put the actor's name who played shipping agent Lombardo, but he was one of the doctors in the original. Oh, Adrian's in the chat room. I love Robert Quarry get cast. I'm looking for the DVD. On the topic of Robert Quarry, I bought a Count Yoga poster for Christmas. Well, that's pretty cool. We like Count Yorga. In fact, I might have one of the Yorga movies on my list here. Yeah, I've got The Return of Count Yorga, the sequel, on my list at number 578. I reviewed the first one. I didn't review the sequel. All right. So we were looking at Agent Lombardo. Agent Lombardo. Oh, that was Terry Thomas. I did put his name in the description. I stand corrected. All right. Upon hearing the descriptions of Volnavia, an organ and a clockwork band all being loaded aboard, they realize that Phibes is responsible. Although Superintendent Waverly is a little skeptical at first. Trout and Waverly pursue Phibes to Egypt, catching up to Beiderbecke's archaeological party near the mountain, housing the hidden temple containing the River of Life. Phibes, having set up residence inside the temple, hides Victoria's body in a secret compartment of an empty sarcophagus. He also finds the silver key that opens the gates to the River of Life. Phibes begins killing Beiderbecke's men one by one. Beiderbecke's team breaks into the temple, and they take the sarcophagus and the key. Beiderbecke takes the key for himself. Phibes uses a giant screw press to crush the man guarding the sarcophagus and a giant fan to simulate a windstorm, muffling his screams. The sarcophagus is retrieved. Beiderbecke is unmoved by the murders, and he insists on continuing. He sends Diana and Professor Hackett, the last remaining team member, back to England. Hackett is lured from his truck by Phibes' clockwork men impersonating British troops. When he returns to the truck, Diana is gone, and he is sandblasted to death. His truck crashes into Beiderbecke's tent. Realizing Phibes must have taken Diana, Beiderbecke confronts him in the table. Phibes demands the key in exchange for Diana's life, claiming that when the gate is opened, the water will drain out Diana's trap and flow through the gate. Unable to free her from Phibes' water trap, Beiderbecke surrenders the key. Phibes unlocks the gate to the River of Life, boats Victoria's coffin through it, and he summons Volnavia to join them on the other side. Beiderbecke returns to the gate as it closes, pleading through the bars for Phibes to take him along. Yeah, good luck with that. Producer Hayward brought in Robert Blees to co-write the film. He felt Blees' sense of humor would serve a Phibes script well. According to Hayward, Blees and co-writer Robert Fuest, who also directed the film, had frequent disagreements about the script, forcing Hayward to mediate. Hayward said of the two writers' conflicts, they were two men with great senses of integrity, but one protecting director's viewpoint and the other protecting writer's viewpoint. American International Pictures, also known as AIP, was grooming Robert Quarry as Vincent Price's replacement. It was rumored that the two actors did not get on well, but Hayward said he did not notice any rift between them on the set. Quarry subsequently says that the studio had told him privately that he would replace Price when Price's contract ran out. According to Quarry, AIP had become disenchanted with Price, whose salary continued to rise despite his film's disappointing box office performance. In addition, Price was not particularly interested in working with the studio. AIP's plans were revealed to Price at a publicity event in England when a publicist asked him how he felt about being replaced by Quarry. Quarry went on to say that while there was tension between him and Price on the set, it did not affect the production of the film. On the contrary, Quarry characterized the experience as extremely pleasant. Our sense of humor was the one bond that made working with him a pleasure. Director Robert Fuest, production designer Brian Eatwell, creator of the noted Art Deco settings, and composer John Gale all remained from the abominable Dr. Phibes team. Price, Peter Jeffrey, and John Cater reprised their roles from the abominable Dr. Phibes. Hugh, Emrys, Griffith, and Terry Thomas also appeared in both films, but played different characters. Caroline Munro appeared in both films as Victoria, Phibes' late wife, but in both films her role was limited to lying silently in a glass coffin. It was originally planned for Phibes to have a new assistant in the sequel, but the studio insisted that Volnavia be retained. Despite the fact that the character dies in the first Phibes film, and despite the unavailability of original Volnavia actress Virginia North, who was pregnant at the time, Valley Kemp was cast as a replacement. Although the film's budget was slightly higher than that of the abominable Dr. Phibes, several elements of the original script had to be cut for budgetary reasons. For example, the pyramid was originally planned to have several levels of traps and be overrun with boiling oil at the end. The desert scenes were shot in Ibiza, Spain. The film's U.S. release was slightly edited, cutting a few seconds each from some of the murder scenes in order to remove the most gruesome parts and allowed the film to be released with a PG rating. AIP solicited scripts for a third Phibes film, but Hayward said the studio never found one suitable. Proposed titles included Phibes Resurrectus, The Brides of Dr. Phibes, and The Seven Fates of Dr. Phibes. Variety wrote that Vincent Price delivers one of his priceless theatric performances and that producer Louis M. Hayward has lined up a first-rate crew of technical assistants. Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune gave the film 1 star. Boo, we do not like Gene Siskel on this channel. Criticizing the cheapness of the production. We like cheapness of production and the unmotivated, mostly unimaginative violence. Are you kidding me? Death by scorpion, death by eagle? Come on. Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times wrote, those who enjoyed the campy humor of last year's Dr. Phibes are in for a keen disappointment, and called the script astonishingly slapdash. Well, that's okay. We like a slapdash script here and there. Phil Strict of the Monthly Film Bulletin wrote, it's refreshing to find a sequel that's better than its prototype. The return of the abominable Phibes, his pallor flushed with the success of his initial screen appearance, is accompanied both by larger budget and, more to the point, by greater display of confidence at all levels of the production. At the film review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 59% of 22 surveyed critics gave the film a positive review, with an average rating of 5.9 out of 10. In horror movies of the 1970s, writer John Kenneth Muir described the film as no better or worse than its predecessor. It wasn't as good as the first one, but it was still excellent. Dr. Phibes Rises Again is a decent sequel. In the Penguin Encyclopedia of Horror and the Supernatural, King Newman wrote, Dr. Phibes Rises Again lacks the gleeful insanity of the first film, but is far more achieved. The Radio Times Guide to Film gives the film 3 out of 5 stars, writing, Vincent Price returns as the ingenious doctor, now in Egypt searching for the elixir of life, but continuing to outwit enemies with macabre murders, even grislier and funnier than the last. While it's not as splendid as the abominable Dr. Phibes, the sequel is mounted by lavish care by Robert Fuest, director of several classic episodes of The Avengers, and still scores high in the squirm and chuckle departments thanks to Price's perfect timing and grandiose camp relish. The film score by John Gale was released on Perseverance Records, PRD002, on March 20th, 2003. So Adrian is saying the return of Count Yorga is better than the original. All right. Dr. Phibes Rises Again, 1972, rated PG, 1 hour, 29 minutes. Poster, cold trailer. I posted the free movie on Tubi and the trailer. Links in the description. So Adrian doesn't have to wait to buy the DVD because it's on Tubi for free. It's also on Creature Features YouTube for free. But I posted the link to the Tubi free movie that's interrupted by tons of commercials. Gets a pretty high 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 7,500 ratings. The vengeful doctor rises again, seeking the scrolls of life in an attempt to resurrect his deceased wife. More like this: The Abominable Dr. Phibes, Madhouse, Theater of Blood, and The Raven. I think I've reviewed all of them except for Madhouse, which I have on my list. It's Madhouse is number 6 on my list. What's on YouTube, Adrian? I've already reviewed The Raven. Why would I watch it again? There's a lot of hostility between Vincent Price and Robert Quarry, particularly when Price discovered that American International Pictures was planning to replace him with Quarry as their major horror film star. At one point, when Price discovered Quarry singing opera, Quarry said, "I'll bet you didn't know I could sing, did you?" To which Price replied, "Well, I knew you weren't an effing actor." At the end of the film, which takes place in 1928, Phibes sings Somewhere Over a Rainbow, a song that was first recorded in 1938, 10 years later. from The Wizard of Oz, of course. Quotes Inspector Trout, I'm a bit apprehensive about finding the others, sir. Do you think you know where we are? Sir Wayne Waverley. Trout, I don't think I know. Inspector Trout says, I don't think you know either, sir. This time, Phibes laughs just before the last chord of the music after the credits. In later prints of the film and in the original home video version of it, a scene featuring Vincent Price singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow is removed, supposedly for copyright reasons. The film's 2001 DVD version restores the Vincent Price sung song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And that's the version that I watched on Tubes now. This is edited from the abominable Dr. Phibes 1971, the previous year. Soundtracks Over the Rainbow, music by Harold Arlen, performed by Vincent Price. So I'll give Vincent Price the music credit, and I'll give Robert Fuest the co-writing credit when I get around to editing the description. Here's a review from G.L. Gioria, January 25th, 2004. There's no rating on here. It just says comedic horror and Vincent Price. The juxtapositioning of lame one-liners and overused sight gags with other rather memorable and disturbing murders are what this film is all about. It's all of a rather low quality in virtually all respects, yet with Vincent Price as a diabolical lead, the many foibles are easily overlooked. Phibes has risen from suspended animation and once more has a bee in his bonnet for those who killed his wife and took away his face. He's not content with simply killing them. Oh no, each murder is creative, elaborate, and basically nonsensical in their conception, but still horrific somehow. There's no sport in criticizing the plot. Questions like why Phibes conjures these nasty deaths for the lackeys of his enemy who are all actually ignorant and innocent of any wrongdoing. That's the point that my son made. They're being killed for apparently no reason. And then he chooses to reason with the one man who is actually trying to destroy him. Very EC comic inspired. And if you like this sort of thing, you will like this film. Keep this away from the impressionable kids, though. I saw this when I was really young, and the images were emblazed on my brain for all time. Beware. So G.L. Gloria had a permanent psychological scar from watching this as a kid, even though it's rated PG. Dracula AD 1972 looks all right. Okay, I'll look up that one. But I could swear that I did a review for The Raven. I'll double check. All right, so going down my list, I've got Hot Shots. No, I'm sorry. I've got Prehistoric Women, 1950. Then Hot Shots, 1991. And then Theater of Blood, 1973. So those are my next three. I'll look up The Raven and Dracula AD 1972. Thanks for the recommendation, or looks all right. I'll take your word for it, and I'll look into it. Thanks again, Adrian, for getting me to re-review these Vincent Price movies. I've got one more that I've already seen, and I love this film. It's in my top 10 movies of all time, Theater of Blood. Eventually, I'll get to Madhouse maybe around New Year's. I don't know. I don't know how far I can get on Wednesday. But I've got to update my list with some more George Kennedy. Some more George Kennedy credits. So right now, Jimmy Traynor bugged me because I skipped over one of his 2010 movies. And this guy is relentless. I think he does unscripted films in like 3 seconds. Anyway, on the bottom of my list, I added a bunch of his 2024 stuff. And then I also added one that I forgot to add in my initial attempt to add all of his movies. I added Jimmy Traynor's Second Chance from 2010. I don't know why I didn't add that earlier on my list, but a good chunk, most of his movies are several years away on my list. Yeah, we're talking about Jimmy Traynor's Big Darn Snake, 457 on my list. I hadn't updated my list with his movies for a year, so I just got around to that. And right now I'm going to check out The Raven and Dracula AD 1972. Laters.